Okay, so here's another message from somebody. The narcissist took something from me. My innocence of trust and believing that someone really cared for me as I was. I didn't feel like I had to be anything more than I was. But he also groomed me to be in a way I was willing to be. It was fun and exciting, but it was also raw and careless, and I was raw and careless with the wrong person. So I lost my innocence of giving freely. I don't know if this makes sense to you. I had my rights taken away with lies that were told to me. It is your mind playing with you. My therapist told me today I was beating myself up because of a memory. It does get better. You just need to learn in time when and why these thoughts come up and call it out. And even his actions, I thought to myself, they don't understand the damage this does to us long afterwards, but they do. And that's why they do it. So, a couple of things with this. Yes, it can feel like you've lost your innocence in believing that somebody really cared for you just the way you were. And that was something that I struggled with too. And I felt in my situation like it just kicked out the chair underneath my self-esteem. Like, oh, here I was. I believed that I believed everything that he said. I believed that I was lovable and attractive and fun and intelligent and all of these he really had built me up. And then it all came crashing down and I felt all of his shame and guilt and stupidity, and I'm like, was I a narcissist? Because here he is just telling me everything I want to hear and how great I am, and I just freaking fell for it. And I felt so awful about that. So I guess what I'm saying is a lot of how you feel is very normal. It's very normal to feel that and to feel that, your innocence in believing that somebody could care for you is gone. But here's the thing with this. So this person also mentioned, I lost my innocence of giving so freely. This is something that I think a lot of us have done, where we are very quick to take other people at face value and to look at, to not necessarily look at actions, or to not look at actions over a prolonged period of time, and to very quickly trust another person because we're making the mistake of thinking that they're like us. And if we say, we're being on the level, we assume other people are too. That's pretty normal. That's how human beings are. We tend to think other people are like us. And it's a hard lesson to learn that trust is something that's earned. It's not something that's blindly given. And so, yeah, there can definitely be this feeling of we've had something stolen from us, that we've had this loss of innocence, that we're never going to be able to just rush in and trust somebody and love somebody so openly and deeply and freely right off the bat. But the reality is that was never healthy to begin with. And that's hard. That's like a huge realization, I think, for a lot of us, where, because again, we tend to think a lot of these qualities about ourselves, being really caring and compassionate and very quick to trust and quick to fall in love, that these are good qualities. And in fact, oftentimes a lot of these can be problematic, and we just don't realize it, because how can being caring and forgiving and compassionate and trusting and loving be a problem? And it's more of, within a certain context, it's problematic. So if we don't have, if we're so quick, to just let our guard down around other people, it's because really it's an issue of healthy boundaries. But that can take us a while. And a lot of people, and I was there too, where you get really angry about that and be like, no, there's nothing wrong with my behavior. And that this is victim blaming, and I would have been the exact same way like a year ago. It's hard to see, like, okay, like, no, this is not healthy. And we've been kind of going too much the other way with being too trusting and all of this. So yeah, it's but the cool thing with this is it might feel like there's this innocence lost with it, but what you've gained is insight into yourself, insight into other people. And like I said, it's a hard lesson to learn. I wouldn't wish it on anybody, and I'm really sorry that you went through this. But it's insight is replacing that innocence. There was more to this that I wanted to point out. She says, my rights were taken away with lies that were told to me. Absolutely. Absolutely. And you have every right, and it's understandable to be angry as hell. Because had we been told the truth, things would have been very different. And a lot of people use the term emotional rape when they describe a relationship with an emotional manipulator, because that's really what it is. The whole relationship was under false pretenses. And yeah, like, it makes a person incredibly outraged and angry. And yes, everything that you're feeling is exactly appropriate for the situation. And she says, my therapist told me today I was beating myself up because of a memory. And then she goes on to say, in his actions, I thought to myself, they don't understand the damage they do to us, but they do, and that's why they do it. So, I can see where her therapist is coming from, was saying, this happened in the past, you're beating yourself up over it. It's a memory, but it's not a memory. So when you're trying to process narcissistic abuse, which is psychological abuse, emotional abuse, it's feeling emotionally raped, it's not a memory. That's the problem. It's a very active part of our thought. That's that whole PTSD component of it. And so all of this woman's, her anger, her rage, her trying to sort out what happened and how can a person be so cruel, and all of this stuff that happened, that's a part of healing. It's a part, being angry, being trying to sort all of this out, going back piece by piece throughout the relationship, trying to sort out what was real, what was a lie, what was a manipulation. It's a relationship with a narcissist has more to do with being in a cult, or maybe better yet, being in a hostage situation, than it does with being in a relationship. And so it can feel very re-victimizing and minimizing when somebody treats it like, oh, it's a bad breakup, this happened in the past, now it's time to move on. Because when you've been manipulated for so long, there's a lot of stuff our brain has to sort through and untangle and figure out what really happened. That's a normal thing for the human brain to do, because it's how it learns lessons. It's how it figures out how it can keep us safe in the future. So our brains are constantly analyzing and pulling apart situations and trying to figure out what lessons we need to learn here in order to keep ourselves safe. So this ruminating on the situation, on what happened, it can look really unhealthy and problematic to other people. And it can feel that way to ourselves too. But that's why our brain is doing that. It's trying to keep us safe. It's trying to make logical sense out of an illogical situation. And you have to go around that situation about 400 times for it to even begin to make sense, because you can't make logical sense out of an illogical situation. And that's the only way that we can actually process what happened, is to try to somehow make sense of things. So just if that gives you any peace about it. And again, she's absolutely right. They do know the damage that they're doing. Yeah, they do. And they're deeply disturbed, dysfunctional people. And it's, it's them. It's them. Their behavior is a reflection of them. It's not a reflection of you, your self-worth. Speaking of self-worth, I came across a great quote a while back. I love, 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 love. And it said, to keep your feelings and your self-worth in two different buckets. And I love thinking of it like that. So when our feelings are hurt, then our feelings are hurt. Like, that's in that bucket. But it doesn't have to impact our self-worth. Like, our feelings can be hurt if we separate the two. Our feelings can be hurt, but it doesn't have to negatively impact our self-worth. So, and of course, like, this is so much more than just having hurt feelings, right? It was kind of reminded me of that, but I'm not making the parallel because it's like way, way, way past, way outside of like hurt feelings, right? It's like emotional and psychological abuse, which is way, way outside of hurt feelings. Lots of love to you guys. You are not alone. You are not crazy, and you really can move forward and heal from this.